you like it? Or if you're not an entrepreneur and you want to be, let me know why you want to be. And I probably know your answers if you've never actually been self-employed, or entrepreneurial is usually called. And what I want to talk about today is just the general lie that everybody is sold about being self-employed. And this is all coming from social media. The social media entrepreneurs, they make it glamorous. And of course, they kind of have to make it glamorous, because how else are you going to stand out on Instagram if you don't have fancy planes in the background and 20 scantily clad women that maybe don't even like you at your party? There's really this whole real life versus online persona thing that's going on with this whole entrepreneurial push. Oh, you definitely want to be self-employed, right? You want to make big bucks. You want to make 6, 7, 8, 9 figures. You want to have fancy planes and fancy cars, and you want to drink $10,000 bottles of bubbly, because boy, let me tell you, if you've never had one drink that costs $3,000 a sip, then you just aren't living. But this really isn't how it works. It's just a complete fabrication of social media, or media in general, maybe, let's say. But social media has distorted what it is to actually be an entrepreneur. So this distortion makes it look like you live big, or at least there's the expectation to live big. And that's a whole nother problem on its own. We're actually gonna have to do a deep dive on the trap of being self-employed, the problems that it has, and how it can actually end up ruining your life if you don't do things to stop the trap of having more money coming in and spending more money because of it. So what happens with social media is that if people can simply look the part, then they're probably selling you as well on how to do it. And what they're selling is really no more than looking the part in most cases. The majority of these, become a businessman folks, they have no business teaching this. Either they came from family money, or maybe they got a lucky break and they have a lot of other people that are actually making them successful, or just generally they're being dishonest and they're selling you the course because that's their funnel. You remember back in the day when you used to get all these funnels for buying, whatever it was that maybe you clicked on an ad one time, or you spoke too close to your phone about needing cat litter, so now Facebook is advertising all these cat litters. It got to a point to where there were funnels actually selling funnels. Learn how to make your own funnels, learn how to sell your stuff to other people. You don't even need a product. You can literally just sell funnels as the funnel. And it got to a point to where there were people that were using funnels to sell funnels, and the funnels were teaching you how to use funnels to sell funnels. I thought it was incredibly hilarious because they were really targeting me. I would occasionally watch that kind of stuff. I like watching business-minded things on YouTube to begin with, so they kind of had me pegged as somebody like, oh, you're highly likely to want to use funnels at some point in your life. I never paid money for it because it's not really that complicated. I'm not going to pay somebody $1,000 or $100 to tell me how to run Google ads. I mean, there's literally a team at Google that will spoon feed you how to use their own ad system. Let me digress a little bit, though. What's the old saying? Those that can do, and those that can't teach. And maybe that's a little harsh. Certainly not trying to disparage teachers in this aspect, but I can tell you that in going to business school, none of those people that I've found in business school, well, maybe a few, but most of them actually never got into business. And so, the one exception was our marketing guy. He's had decades of experience as a marketer and did a great job of actually bringing his own experience into that. And he was essentially like a retired marketing dude. He's like, I'm going to teach other guys in the MBA, gals and guys in the MBA program how to market themselves, or market their products, or market whatever. And, so he was one of the few that actually came in with all this experience. But for the majority of it, especially what you're seeing online right now is entrepreneurial sort of people, they're selling it because they can't do it themselves. And the very few people that have actually done it and are selling it, they're upfront with you about it. They show you their figures, and on top of that, their advice is usually a little bit more solid. And a lot of their advice is going to be, you're making a mistake trying to be an entrepreneur, because that's not really cut out for everybody. So just as a heads up, those that can't sell it these days. So I want to end this first section about just the whole online persona with the issue that we do see is confusing success with entrepreneurial skills. So you look up to these people. Quick, name one person down below that is successful in something that isn't business, but also turned out to be a great business person. Quick, before you think too much about it, put it down below. So off the top of my head, I can think of a few. Dr. Dre, he was a rapper, but he turned out to be a great producer and also a marketer. And if he wasn't good at it, he knew who to hire. And that's actually what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a fantastic ball player, but he didn't leverage his ball playing, he leveraged his image. And probably had people helping him out along the way, and he figured out who was there to make a buck off of him and who was there to actually help him make a buck. So he has an empire at this point. You know, he started out with Nike selling shoes and it was like, Nike just needs to get out of the way. He saw his own value. He had control of his own image, good entrepreneurial skills. Another one from the rap industry would be Jay-Z. Of course, a great rapper, a great producer, but he was able to leverage the money and momentum that he got from that industry and then branch out all over. And so the majority of his fortune isn't actually from being a rapper, but it is from being a good entrepreneur and knowing how to leverage his own skills, the skills of people around him, and become a successful person, wildly successful. These examples, of course, and not everybody's going to be wildly successful at this. So next, what I would like to talk about is really the downfalls, the downside of being an entrepreneur and why it is not for everybody. So the biggest hurdle to being an entrepreneur is that you probably already have a job. If you're thinking about being self-employed, then you understand this trap right now. Because to be truly self-employed, it takes a critical mass of work. So you have to be able to support yourself. And this is the critical mass that I'm talking about. You have to be able to pay yourself enough money out of the company to survive. But at the same time, if you have a day job, you have to work enough hours so that you can pay your bills, hopefully have a little bit of savings, have a car, have a house payment, have insurance, all these things that are required essentially. You don't have to have a car these days, you don't have to have insurance, but if you want to live in the modern society and participate in the modern society, you have to have these things, which means there's a minimum level that you need to work. And for most people in most situations and jobs, that's going to be 40 hours a week. So you want to start up this little side business. If you really want it to succeed, you need to be putting 40 hours a week into it. Unless you just have some sort of great idea that happens to catch on with minimal effort, which that's not really how it works, then maybe you can get away with 20 or 30, but we're still talking about 60 to 80 hour work weeks. That's a lot of effort. Do you think you could hang for years and years with 80-hour work weeks? You know, just be honest with yourself. How much do you like to sleep? How much do you like to consume social media? How much do you like to just hang out with friends? Do you have any other hobbies? Like literally just think about how much time a week that you have to spare on this. Could you double your efforts at work, at home, and stay motivated over a multi-year period trying to grind it out and grow your business to a level to where you can actually support yourself? This is the biggest failure that most people have as entrepreneurs. It took me 3 years to build up Holmes Hobbies. Now, granted, it was in a growing industry that wasn't yet an industry, but it took me 3 years to be able to pay myself anything out of Holmes Hobbies. And that was at a rate that was below the minimum wage. I mean, I was making an equivalent of like $3 to $4 an hour for my time. Do you think you could hang with that for years? Because I did that for 4 more years, still having side jobs. And then finally, after 7 years, I moved it out of the basement. I had hours for myself. I was able to pay myself. I was able to pay rent for the business to get it out of my home. And we had finally amassed that critical mass. 7 years of eating shit to grow my business so that it could actually support me. But why was I able to do that? We're going to have to talk about that later. But essentially, it was that it was fun. It was that fun that I just continuously ground it out until it worked. So when we're talking about an 80-hour work week, stress, that's really one of the biggest things about being self-employed that most people can't handle. There are a few reasons why it's really high stress. And the biggest one, at least in my mind, is that the workload is going to be variable when you're self-employed. You don't have some, sentient being out here that's feeding you a stack of papers every day to do. Or you don't just come into work, put in your hours every day and you're done. You have to essentially chase your clients to a degree, or you have to continuously improve on your products. And on top of that, you're going to have the sales flow of whatever industry that you're in that goes up and down throughout the year. And having this variable workload, it can be very frustrating. It can honestly drive people crazy. Like if you're the type that looks at daily sales, even weekly sales or monthly sales, and you say, well, this month was less than last month, so therefore this month is a failure, you're not going to survive as a business owner, because that's just the nature of the beast. And because of these variable sales, you also have to be able to withhold enough money to get through these periods without spending so much that you cripple the business, but enough that you can survive dry periods. And dry periods may be a month, it may be a few months, it may be a few years. We had some dry years at Holmes Hobbies after Castle Creations and Hobbywing got into the business that, I mean, it kicked us hard. Castle Creations kicked us so hard that I had to fire people, and there was really no other way around it. And as a business owner, it's kind of part of the deal, but if you're not built to be an entrepreneur, it'll break you to see, oh, we're failing now. You know, we're going backwards. What are we ever going to do? Well, as an entrepreneur, I knew what I needed to do. I was looking out years in the future, always have been. One of the reasons why I think I was successful is that I always had a 5-year goal. Always had a 5-year goal and plan. And if you can't look way far into the future, another reason why a lot of 20-year-olds don't do well in business is that they're thinking a month out, tops. When you're that young, a month is a long time. And I started in the 20s, but I had a different plan, I guess. I just looked way into the future so that I would make sure that I had a goal that I was working towards. And when Castle came in and just freaking kicked down the doors in the crawler market, we had a 40% drop in gross sales in 1 month that did not recover for years. It took 2 years to climb out of that. And are you ready for that sort of setbacks? Because it will happen. If you're successful, you will have copycats. You will have people essentially cloning your formula, cloning your products, cloning you when it boils down to it. And that's something that you have to deal with. And my way of dealing with it is just not worrying about it, honestly, because there's always going to be that. And the best way for me is to focus on the products. We're in an industry that sells products. So you got to keep that in mind. This is why most people fail, is that they don't look long enough and they can't deal with that variation. I mean, think about if you had saved up 100 grand in your business and things are going great. Things are going great. Are you going to be tempted to pull out most of that 100 grand if you don't need it for something else and spend it on yourself? Maybe get a fancy car? You're going to fail really quick because you're going to have some dry times down the road. Maybe not, maybe things are just up and up and up in your industry, but more than likely you're going to have some dry times. And if you spent all that reserve cash, you're SOL, you're done. And then you're either going to end up going bankrupt, or you're going to lose your house, lose your car, lose your wife. You're going to lose everything because you didn't plan for that 5-year future. And that's really why I think a lot of people do fail. And maybe if they don't fail, they limit their success because they see that money coming in and they're trapped in that social media entrepreneur image that they think that they need to have. So they immediately go out, I got a $10,000 commission sale and now I'm going to go put that down on a fancy new car. So now you actually have more overhead. So you need to make more and more money, because as you make these, I would call them dumb purchases on the whole, is your overhead keeps going up and up and up. And so your workload goes up and up and up. And it's just not sustainable. It ends up killing most businesses pretty quick. Why do most people fail as entrepreneurs? It's the high stress. It's really just the high stress. If you can't decouple from that daily or that weekly or that monthly sales volume, and you can't just, watch the market at an arm's distance and of course react, you have to stay within the market to be competitive. But if you get emotionally charged over this stuff, it's gonna kill it real quick. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have. You're used to having that 9 to 5, being able to turn off at the end of the day and not even worry about it. And you can't do that as an entrepreneur. I've had periods in my life where I couldn't sleep. I was sleeping maybe 3 to 4 hours a night consistently for long periods of time. And if the mental stress didn't get me, the physical stress would have gotten me. Now, I got over it pretty quick and learned, what to do and what not to do to be long-term successful. 17 years now with Holmes Hobbies, being self-employed, truly self-employed. It was, 7 years is when I moved out and really was able to pay myself a proper wage. So, 10 years completely self-employed, no side hustles needed, none of that. It takes a lot of weird dedication to get there. So now let's talk about that weird dedication. Let's say you have a business plan. I would say post it down below, but maybe you don't want to share your business plans. But if you do, if you feel comfortable sharing it, let us know. What are you thinking about doing? How would you become self-employed? Maybe you already do concrete for some other contractor and you think you're getting good enough. You've got enough money, you can start making your own forms or buy your own forms. You think you can do it on your own, get your own clients. Maybe you can do it for cheaper because you got lower overhead. And this is how a lot of new businesses start, is that they will see it's being done a certain way. And they say, man, I got a lot less overhead than this guy that's got all these fancy trucks and he's got all these employees and he's got insurance. If I pay somebody $15 an hour on the shop floor, it's costing me $25 an hour because I have to have insurance. We have overhead. We've got bills to pay. The freaking heating can be $800 a month at the shop alone. That's as much as a house payment can be. And that causes the prices to have to rise as you become more and more established in any industry. It's just how it works. And so it gives opportunities for little guys to come in. So how do the little guys come into it? It's with passion. More than likely, you're not going to be able to say, like let's say the concrete worker example, you're not going to be able to just go straight from being 40 hours a week or more if you're doing concrete to being fully self-employed. You're probably not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to start a side hustle. There's I don't even want to get into those loaded terms about side hustles, but you're going to have to do that, and you're going to have to grind it away for possibly years and years. So this is why you need to be really involved. You need to be really passionate about this, so that whatever it is, you continuously have fun, even though it's work. At the end of the day, it's all still going to be work. But if you're passionate about it, then you can grind through these years possibly of having little success, very slow incremental growth, and still have fun with it. And that's the reason why Holmes Hobbies was built, is that I was just having so much fun for so long. It's like, well, this is work, but it's not really, it's hard, but it's fun work. And I think this is what separates the entrepreneurs that are really successful with the entrepreneurs that just don't cut it long term, is that if you go into it with a money mindset and you're just trying to sell funnels to sell funnels, and you're not passionate about funnels, if you're not like the funnel guy, you're not going to last. You're going to burn yourself out. You're not going to have new ideas because it's not your bag. And where does that leave you? That leaves you with failure at the end of the year. So you need to have that passion, in my opinion. So you've got the passion, you've got the effort, you need to have good luck. This is one of those things that we just really can't control. I feel like with Holmes Hobbies, I had the passion, I really put in the effort, but I also had the right timing and the right luck in the market. Because, when it boils down to it, anybody can do the same thing. Anybody can copy. Anybody can look at other products and say, this is, the improvements that I see that need to happen. There's no line in the sand that says you can or cannot do it. It's really on your own back. So that is, having that luck, having that sort of happenstance, being the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, being in an industry in the right time. The timing of that is actually pretty crucially important, unless you have some sort of gimmick or niche, or you can do it better because you're a programmer or whatever it happens to be, that you can figure out a way to actually improve an existing market. Otherwise, you need to be timed right in whatever market that you're trying to get to, that hopefully it's on an upswing. And when there's market growth, it's a lot easier to come as a newcomer and kind of take some of these new customers away from the established guys. That's just how it works. That's how markets work. So there's a lot of luck involved. And I don't want to downplay the hard work aspect by any means, because if you don't prepare for the day that you can be ready to take the opportunity, then when the opportunity presents itself, it will not happen. And if you don't have luck with that opportunity at the same time, then your results, they just may not fall out. And that's the harsh truth of it, is that, at least with me, there was a lot of luck in play. Although I did the hard work, I learned how to design things, I learned how to manufacture things, I learned what needed to be improved in our market. And of course, as we started out, what needed to be improved is that there wasn't a market. You couldn't buy motors for rock crawlers because there really wasn't many rock crawlers available. And so that was me. I want this for myself, so I need to figure out how to make it. And that's where I found my own lane. So I hope you have luck in whatever it is that you want to do. So another aspect that I feel separates the real entrepreneurs from what you could call solopreneurs or just self-employed is the ability to manage people. This is actually a pretty big problem with a lot of business owners. That they can't scale past a certain point of having 0 employees or 1 or 2 or 3 employees because it's your baby, all right? The business is your baby. When you're the sole owner, in particular, you don't have some finance company. We're not talking about going in with millions of dollars behind you on some big idea. We're talking about building something from the ground up, maybe with your own money. But even so, it's your baby. And to let the reins go of your baby or your prized horse or however you want to put it is a really big step, and a step that not many people can actually take. It took me forcing myself to let go of the reins, whether it be the email responses or whether it be the actual website, working on the website, making it look a certain way. The manufacturing of motors itself, that was one of the hardest ones. I was winding my own motors, assembling all of my own motors for a really long time because honestly, I didn't trust anybody to do it. And we're all humans, we all make mistakes, but when you're a business owner and you see your employees make mistakes, it's really easy to look at those dollars. Well, this dude is making 15 bucks an hour, but in 1 hour, he just cost me $50 of mistakes. I'm going to tell you, that is the price of not having to do everything yourself. And if you can't handle that, if you can't either build that into the price, train people properly to avoid it, or deal with it mentally, then, your deal's off. You have to be able to manage employees if you want to scale to the point of being truly, independent, self-employed, travel the world, buy the fancy cars, or, whatever you think is an entrepreneur. The freedom that you think that you will have, you're never going to be able to get it if you can't let the reins go, if you can't let other people do the work. Because there's only so many hours in a day for one person to do the work, and there's only so big that a company can get if one person is doing all the work. The amount of hats that you have to wear, I really wanted to bring in my hat collection just to show you how many hats. We've got the accountancy hat over here. We've got the financing hat over here. Oh, here's this marketing hat that I need to be able to wear. Well, on top of that, what am I going to be marketing? It's going to be these products. So I have to be able to develop products, or of course, any of these could be hiring other people to do it. But when you're first starting out, you don't have the money to do it, so you literally have to do it yourself. And if you're an expert on the subject, on top of that, who better to do it but yourself, of course. So we've got our designing of products here. Well, we actually have to prototype and send off to factories. So you have to be able to juggle factories. You have to be able to juggle your cash flow that is coming in with the outflow that you have if you're reselling a product, at least. You have to be able to build your inventory at the same time to be able to have enough cash from the sales of that inventory so that you have enough money to start this new project over here, because let's face it, you probably have more ideas coming, right? And there's a lot of hats to wear. Let's see, social media itself. Of course, you probably have to pay your employees, so you need to know how to run payroll. Hey, tax time comes around. You know who's not good at doing taxes in your industry? The accountant. That's probably just a basic ass accountant that, unless he's charging you like $200 to $300 an hour, he doesn't know your industry. He doesn't know the write-offs. He has no clue what he's looking at when you say, well, we got this VPI resin here. It costs $100. He doesn't know how to classify that crap. No. So you need to be able to do your own taxes, read the tax code a lot of times, unless you're coming into this with a lot of money, which in the case of that, you're probably listening to the wrong guy here, but there's so many hats to wear. I'm barely scratching the surface here. You got to be able to manage your own time. It can be completely overwhelming for the average person. But if you're successful as an entrepreneur, this is something that you have to be able to do. You have to be able to wear all these hats, switch between them, and to be able to get to the point to where you can put this hat on somebody else and be comfortable with the mistakes that they will make as the price of not doing it yourself. You got to be able to do it, at least if you want to be successful. I would like to circle back to luck here, because I do feel that it's a pretty big one. Did we talk about it yet? Let me know in the comments. The luck aspect is tied in a lot to also the market timing. We have this pesky thing called the economy. And if you get into a new industry when the economy is crashing, then you're probably not going to have very good luck. Of course, everybody around you may not be having good luck either, but if you're able to grind it out while the economy is crashing, when the economy bounces back, hopefully you'll be in a good position so that your company will also grow with the economy. Not always the case, but that is something to consider, that you have to have luck of timing the market with the market growth for the sector that you're trying to get into. And it just depends on what you're trying to get into. Like right now, home building has been going nuts. Who would have guessed that 2 years ago? Absolutely nobody. Getting into a pandemic, we would have thought, nobody's going to be moving around buying homes right now. But no, that's exactly what people wanted to do. People wanted to play with toys. They wanted to throw some disc golf. They wanted to get away from the problems that they saw in society. They wanted these hobbies. They wanted the security of owning a house instead of renting. Things like that you just can't really predict. And if you can predict, you're going to become a really good businessman. If you can see the 2 to 5 year picture, this actually could be the thing for you. And if you can manage employees, if you can wear tons of hats, if you can deal with the stress, if you can sleep a square 6 to 8 hours a night while all of this is bearing down upon you, especially having employees where it's like, I got 10 families that depend on me for their food on the table. I hope I don't make a mistake. Is that going to keep you up at night or not? Hopefully you can just be like, I'll do my best, and the best is all I can do, and today we're doing fine. Last month we're doing fine. Next month may not be great, but I got enough buffer for all the families to be able to survive, and in that case, you just might be successful. So that does conclude my rant about being an entrepreneur and why I think you're probably going to fail at it, but maybe not. Let me know in the comments below if you've been successful or you think you could actually survive in this world of entrepreneurship. I would love to hear your stories and love to hear your outlook on this. It should be pretty positive. It's something that if you really want to do it, you're going to be able to do it, but let's get a little dose of reality here. If it was for everybody, then everybody would be self-employed. And that's not just the case. So I hope this gave a little bit of clarity on the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. If you want me to get into more subjects, leave your comments down below and I can get into some of the more nitty-gritty things about how the business can really start owning you instead of you owning the business. The downsides of actually being a good entrepreneur. They're out there. There are definitely some downsides. So in the meantime, I do hope this helped you out a little bit, maybe a little bit of insight on being self-employed. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day.